Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 1989 Jaws ripoff film Blades, and if you can't guess, Blades has to do with a killer lawnmower at a golf course. So I like the premise. I also like this release by Vinegar Syndrome. It looks really good, as usual. Also in the back, I like just when you thought it was safe to putt. Pretty good. Not many special features on this. There's one special feature which was interesting. It was the writer, director, producers talking. So, gave some interesting information. But I kind of wanted more special features. Like, Hobgoblins by Vinegar Syndrome has a lot of special features. Super cool. Anyway, let's talk about Blades. Directed by Thomas R. Rondinella, who, this is their only directing credit, unfortunately. But I will say that I do believe the directing and cinematography actually looks pretty good for this film, especially considering that you would think it'd be a lot more like crappy, low budget, especially with the only directing credit being this. Written by Rondinella as well as William R. Pace, who wrote scripts for All's Fair, Third Party Witness, Charming Billy, A Girl's Guide to Sex, just to give you an idea, and also story by John P. Finnegan, who I think was also the producer, who worked on scripts All's Fair and Girls' School Screamers, which has also been put out on Blu-ray by Vinegar Syndrome. Originally, this was released on physical media by Troma in a triple feature with Zombie Island Massacre as well as Bloodhook. I am planning on buying Bloodhook at some point because Vinegar Syndrome put that out as well. 10 scenes were actually taken directly from Jaws and parodied. That is from the words of one of the writers. And in my opinion, those are the best parts of the movie. Those are the most entertaining. I love a Jaws ripoff film. This film is not that engaging. It's not that fun and exciting. There is some, as the writer had said in their featurette, there is some baked-in comedy already, just with the premise of it being a lawnmower on a golf course. But in addition to that, they do have a few moments where you're like, oh, you can see they're trying to intentionally be funny, and it's not that funny. But those scenes, when you can tell they're ripped directly from Jaws, those are the best. Those are the most humorous because it's like, how are they putting their twist on it? It's funny. Much like with Bruce the Shark and with Jaws, the lawnmower actually had a lot of issues, apparently. Breaking down, having other, mechanical type issues. So, very Jaws-like. Finnegan negotiated using Beer World for the golf course over the phone with the owner of Schmidt's Brewing while he was in jail. It was tax-related stuff, but that's kind of a crazy story. Schmidt's Brewing actually owned this place called Beer World that had a golf course, and Finnegan went and wanted to talk to the owner to be able to use it, which he emphatically said yes to, but he had to talk to him from jail because he was in jail at the time. Just an interesting story. All right, getting into the actual film, the guy popping out of the water in the beginning at the girl in the inner tube is a clear nod to Jaws. They're already establishing that immediately. And then the people who end up popping up from underwater, that was the couple making out. So obviously this is much like the first Jaws scene where, people are on the beach and then the girl goes into the water and then she gets attacked. Same thing. They're just setting it up on the golf course. Of course, they use lawnmower POV shots in this, which I love. I love that kind of like low to the ground going through the tall grass, just ripping through with roaring sounds, like growling/roaring sounds. I didn't really understand that. The lawnmower sounds very animal, which was a choice. But I love the POV shots, which, you have to if it's a Jaws ripoff because of all the Jaws POVs. Nice sound effects on the first kill. I like that. It just sucks that there really isn't a whole lot of gore. And that's the thing. There's not a lot of gore in this. There's not a lot of great practical effects in this. So if you're really into that stuff, this film might not kind of scratch those itches for you. But the sound design was really good. So good on that first attack that I was okay with it not being super bloody. It's just after that, the other kills, which there were two that were pretty solid, which I'll talk about when we get to that part. Of course, the acting is very wooden. It's very stilted. It's very wooden. My favorite character was Slade. That actor, apparently, that actor showed up not prepared, didn't know any of his lines, so they had to shoot other things without him first, while the producer ran lines with him for a while. But he ended up having the best performance, in my opinion. He's the most interesting character. He's very much like Quint from Jaws. And then he did a good job actually delivering the lines. He's passionate about it. Came off well. Beatrice, the wife of the owner of the golf course, is real thirsty. The way she talks about strokes with the young employee in the beginning, and then the way she's basically throwing herself immediately at Roy, their new golf pro for the golf course. I love Harry's catatonic state when he's found the chopped up bodies. Lyle brings people out to be like, oh my god, we found something, and it's in, the body's in the sand trap. All the limbs kind of like partially covered in the sand trap were cool, with like the hands sticking up and they're still holding hands. That was cool, like that, covered in blood. But it's just hilarious, like, Harry is catatonic. Like, the whole time he's just like, and just doesn't move. Nothing from him. It's pretty funny. Kelly goes pretty hard at Roy over the pro position. You get the idea that it's not where he wants to be in life, though. Like, Kelly's pissed off initially because she wanted that position that he gets. She assumed it would be hers. And then they bring him in, and he's kind of like a washed-up pro. And you get the idea, like, that's not really where he wants to be in life. So it's this thing where he's like, great, I don't really want to be here. I don't really want to be at this stage of my life. And now she's pissed at me. The person who's supposed to be my assistant's pissed at me. But that ends up getting patched up. And you actually get the idea that Kelly is potentially a bit interested in Roy in a romantic sense. Based on the introduction of the character of Mal, you know that he's going to be the next victim. Because of the way he's talking and the fact that he's like, oh, I'm gonna start going to golf now. And he's like, oh, it's kind of late in the day. He's like, oh no, it's fine when it gets dark. And you're like, gonna die. The lawnmower sounds like it makes roaring noises during Mal's death. Yeah, that's when I first picked up on that. The first kill, it was different, good sound effects. The second kill, I was like, sounds like an animal. Either Roy is so dense that he doesn't understand Beatrice's angle with him, or he is DTF when it comes to that. He did hit it. So we didn't see anything of him really trying to rebuff Beatrice's advances. So he's literally just like, yeah, I'm like down to get it on with my employer's wife. Okay. But she just like throws it out there constantly in front of everyone. And you just kind of get the idea that like everyone knows, maybe including her husband. I don't know. I forget his name in it. He's not even all that important. So, Osgood. All of Roy's trophies are just reminders of his shattered dreams. That's why they end up focusing on it actually at parts of showing where he's living then. He's like all these unpacked trophies. It's like to show that like, oh yes, he was like actually a pro, but it's actually like looking at it being like, these are his shattered dreams. Like, these are the achievements he had, and now they're just reminders that he's not there anymore, Beatrice obviously doesn't care if anyone knows she's cheating, as evidenced by her going to the door while Roy is talking to Kelly. She literally is very out there about it. She's like, I don't know who's at the door. I don't care who's at the door. They can know that we just boned. It's very bold. I kind of would have liked them to explore that more, like have that be more. I don't want to say necessarily more part of the story because it doesn't really work into like a Jaws scenario, but just have more scenes with her and it just like trying to get with everyone. I think it was kind of a funny angle. Whoops, sorry. It's during the meeting about the tournament when it feels the most like Jaws, because it feels like that kind of like town meeting where the mayor's like, we have our big thing coming up in Jaws, and it's like, we can't cancel it, the regatta or whatever. And then you have the same thing. The golf course owner is like, we can't, this is our big invitational, we have to do it. So that's when it felt the most Jaws-ish to me, and I love it. And it goes back to what I was saying is, those 10 lifted directly from Jaws scenes and parodied are my favorite. Charlie and the morgue attendant laughing is supposed to kind of show that the deaths aren't really being taken seriously by the people who should be taking it seriously. Most importantly, Charlie, who doesn't seem like he's an inept police officer. He seems like he just doesn't care. He's literally laughing while there are pieces of Mal being loaded into the back of an ambulance by the morgue attendant. Yeah, it very easily shows you he's not interested in solving this. You gotta love how Lyle is picking berries with a machete. Very random. That's another thing. I would have liked more Lyle in the film. More of him kind of being an idiot because he clearly is cast as being a dumb person, you know. So you could have had more good comedy involved with that. I did like his scene in the bar, though. That was kind of funny where he was talking to the woman and then she thinks that he owns the golf course at one point and then she's more interested. Kind of funny. Is Kelly teaching a class? Because if she is, why is she repeatedly hitting balls into the brush? Yeah, she's supposed to be a pro of sorts, and she is showing people how to hit by hitting into the brush. Wouldn't she be hitting it to the fairway to show placement? To show, look, this is how you hit it, and it places well on the course? Obviously, we know that's just a reason to get the kid into the brush so that then the lawnmower can get him without actually showing the lawnmower. Just saying. The kid's death is made fun by the ridiculous blood spray, which I think they should have done more of. This is like the only time that like they have literally like blood from off screen just like flying into the frame. They should have done that more. They should have gone more ridiculous with it. It's not that expensive to just put red food coloring and carrot syrup and just like throw it around. Like that would have been great. You could have increased your gore factor. Charlie kicking off a maniac hunt certainly seems like something the head of police should never do. Again, showing very much that this is parody, and it is obviously supposed to be very much like in Jaws where they're having everyone going out hunting for Jaws. That's much different than on a golf course saying, everyone get your guns, we think there's a human out here killing people, why don't you go be vigilantes? So, it's a level of comedy. I love when Roy talks about how he's gotten better at drinking. That was kind of funny. He's like, my golf game's not gotten better, but since I stopped golfing as much, I'm drinking a lot better. Okay. Why the hell does Charlie invite Roy and Kelly to the interrogation of Slade? When they arrest Slade because they think he's the killer, chopping everyone up, he stops by, and while Kelly and Roy are talking, is just like, hey, you want to come to this interrogation of this dude? They have nothing to do with this. Like, he literally is just like, whatever about his job. I don't get it. I do like how Mal's widow basically says it's Roy's fault that Mal died. Shouldn't she be addressing Charlie for that? Because he's the one not taking this seriously, not going after the killer, and actually just sending a bunch of vigilantes out to just round up and or kill whoever, because obviously they get the wrong person in Slade. Real quick, pause for horror hydration. I do love how the lawnmower cut size talk shows up, which points to why Roy isn't convinced it's over, just like in Jaws, where he's just like, the size of the cuts, the lawnmower they found Slade with, like, it's not the right size. It has to be a lot bigger because of how the grass clippings are cut. And I love that scene where, like, the lawnmower is, like, hanging up and they, like, cut the bag open, just like cutting open the stomach of a shark in Jaws. Great. Love that. I also love how the lawnmower is all messed up. Actually ended up messing up. Sorry about that. Ended up also messing up a golf cart. You get the idea that people were in a golf cart. It goes after it. It actually does a bunch of damage to the golf cart. And this is good because at this point you haven't really seen it yet. You haven't seen the scope, like the size of it. So it just puts in your imagination this could be really large, which is something they end up doing, obviously, in Jaws with their shark. Funny how the young caddies are the watch people for the tournament. Because really, what are they going to do? Like, when the killing is happening, especially when the one guy who is cheating in the tournament dies, the one kid's laughing. He's literally doing nothing. I guess they were just there to, like, signal that something needed to be done, that, like, they see something suspicious or dangerous, but they weren't going to do anything, and actually it was a bad idea to use them because it's just putting them in harm's way at that point. But yeah, I mean, I guess someone had to do something because Charlie wouldn't bring police officers there to deal with it. Of course, the guy cheating gets killed, and I like that his bloody leg nubs, that they create, and then the fact that he gets, like, dragged away by the lawnmower. Like, he's still stuck in it while he's getting eaten up by it, and then dragged away. That's the same death that you end up getting for Slade later, and it looks good. Like, that's where practical effects and blood come together and look pretty good. We just need more of those types of deaths, and maybe, like I said before, throw some blood around haphazardly a bit more. It would have been fun. I like when they go to recruit Slade, because it makes you hope for some fun action that's coming. You get a little, but I will be honest, like, after they recruit Slade, it really starts to get kind of boring, because you think this big confrontation is coming, and they go looking for the lawnmower, and not a lot happens until the very, very end. And they kind of draw it out where they're kind of like looking for it. And then they have that moment where I really don't understand, where like they have the confrontation with it, the tire gets messed up, and they're like stuck. They're not really trying to go anywhere. Like, they could still drive with that vehicle at that point and go after looking for the lawnmower, but it kind of seems like they're just going to hunker down and hope that it comes back and they can try and take it out. I don't know. That didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, and it just really slowed things down. They could have done something else. Glad to see that Slade was bringing explosives to the fight, though, so you know there's going to be a fun explosion at some point, and there was at the end. Actually, 2 explosions. The van and the lawnmower. Are they seriously using a bale of long grass to draw out the lawnmower? I thought that was ridiculous and kind of funny, so it did kind of work how, like, they're driving the van and it's, like, pulling this long grass behind it, like, this'll entice him to come and get it. It's like the chum for getting Jaws. And how about Slade literally tracking it? I love how he's just, like, on the course and he's, like, picking up clippings and he's looking at him. He's like, oh, yeah, it must be this way. He did such a good job with, like, keeping his character serious, which makes that more fun. I like how they do end up having a backstory for the lawnmower, including Slade's father, who he was, working the course with. Very cool. I do like that. I didn't see that coming. I thought they were just going to be like, for no reason, sentient lawnmower. Which, they don't necessarily explain why the lawnmower is sentient, but they do give it a little bit of backstory that could hint at, like, his father inhabiting it, like the soul of his father or something. I don't know. If the lawnmower left after the confrontation, why don't they go after it? What makes them think it'll come back? Kind of already talked about that. You just know that Slade is going to get it. It looks a lot like the cheating golfer kill. Could he use some variation at this point? Yeah. Although those are the best looking kills, you needed to do something a little bit different. Maybe, like, get his arm, like, get him in a different position, not just do the legs once again, or maybe just show, like, a fake head getting it, like, something. And Roy's a pro again when he hits the golf ball just right to mess up the lawnmower enough that it crashes into the little water hazard and explodes, and dun-dun-dun, the film is done. But is it? Because there isn't a post-credits scene for Hedges. It wasn't anything that they were actually going to do film-wise, but it was funny to kind of have this fake teaser for another film called Hedges, where it's going to be like this possessed hedge trimmer. It was funny. It was a good way to end things. Again, directing and cinematography actually looking pretty good. You wouldn't assume that for a film like this. Pretty impressed with that. The idiocy of many of the characters does take the film a bit too far into the comedy realm. So I know I was talking about how they were saying that there is a baked-in comedy because of the premise that you're doing, but I think it would have been a lot better if they played it straight, though. Because those are the Jaws ripoffs that end up being the funniest. The ones that are kind of unintentionally funny, or they're just so subtle with the funny that it seems like they're kind of like just a so bad it's good. Don't know why that happened. Odd. But anyway, I think it's the lawnmower spirit trying to come after me. Just saying. But anyway, yeah, I just wish they would have toned the characters down a little bit, because when they're trying to go for humor at certain points, it's just not good. It comes off a little like cheesy. The pacing also not great. Kind of already talked about that. Once you start getting towards the end, it really slows down a lot. Like, when it's slow in the beginning and the middle, like, they're building story, and like you get that, that's fine, but then it just gets too slow towards the end. They should just cut the runtime down, because it is over an hour and a half. Not a lot. I think it was like an hour and 38 minutes or something like that, but should have cut it down a little. So, gonna rate this as a regular film and then as a so bad it's good. So, as a regular film, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, 1.5 stars, I guess. No, 1 star. As a so bad it's good film, 2.5 stars. I'm pretty in the middle. There were things I really liked about it. There were things I really didn't like about it. Thought about just giving it 2 stars, but 2.5 feels better. I'm a little more in the middle for a so bad it's good. But let me know your thoughts on Blades. Go ahead and put it in the comments. And then give me like a sentence or two letting me know why. Also hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Would greatly appreciate that. Hit the notification bell button. Then you know when I'm putting up new videos. And yeah, that's all the stuff. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video. And until next time, keep it brutal.